Welcome back to Cantina Chronicles. We're here in Port Borgo.
Yes.
All the pirates.
Arrgh.
Where you can get anything you need. No questions asked. We're here to talk Skeleton Crew. This is very exciting. We've been waiting for the show for a long time. I think this is one of our most anticipated shows. Kind of a fun new genre piece from Star Wars where it's like essentially an adventure, wholesome sort of adventure tale. Starring these four kids who are just fantastic. Like I was honestly astounded by how incredible the acting was from the younger characters in the show. Even before we get to like Jude Law and things that we know are in the show. What did you guys think? Skeleton Crew. Either of you guys want to go first?
I mean, I can just mimic that. I mean, it's exactly what I thought it would be. Like the pacing and what happened to the episodes is exactly, I mean, generally, and I couldn't be more pleased. It like not because like I wanted it, but it's like because normally that's a bad thing if I'm like okay, and then this happens, story. But I was surprised the whole time by like the story, and I was like, oh, this is really sweet. I love the way they're doing this, and then the production value was amazing. I mean, it looked like a feature film to me. I just love the way it looked, and and it just went in like did a lot of really cool, fun things, and I had a great ride, and I'm really looking forward to the next 6 episodes of it.
Yeah, same. I left the first episode feeling nervous, and the reason why I felt nervous was nothing about the episode did. I just really liked it, and that made me nervous because I'm not used to I'm not used.
Checks out.
I'm not used to leaving like the first episode of a new Star Wars being like, I love this. This is perfect. I want more. I'm usually like, I like it. I'm not sure where it's going. I'm kind of on board. I mean, the closest that came to that was probably the first episode of Mandalorian, right? That's like the closest I've ever felt with a Star Wars show. But I mean, like, it all comes down to the kid actors, and the kid actors in the show are great. I don't want to beat up on kid actors, but they make or break these things, and all 4 of them are terrific. To the point where I knew Jude Law was coming. I forgot about Jude Law. And I realized that I would have been fine. I would have been fine if it was just these 4 kids in the galaxy for the next 6 episodes. Jude Law is like awesome, and I'm so excited. But like I was happy enough just to follow them, right? Yeah. Like I just was so. It's really wonderful, and it's one of those weird. I feel like the internet's come together around it, which is nice. Though there's always the people that are like, well, this is what's now. See, this is this is how you do Star Wars. So I'm like, yes, but let's not bust down other things to build this up.
That's what I love the most about the show is this sort of series-centric world building where they're creating all these new elements within the galaxy that actually have nothing to do with the
Skywalker
saga films or any other storytelling. And it's not dependent on any other legacy storytelling. It's really just kind of carving its own path, and quite literally in such a really magnificent way with the plotting and sort of some of the mysteries and setups. I thought the setups were incredible. I thought for episode 1 and 2 of television and sort of what the setups are and the mysteries of the show, I'm intrigued. Like I'm instantly intrigued, which is all I can ask for from Star Wars, is sort of to be intrigued. The central mystery: who is Obi-Wan Kenobi? What are we doing here? To me that's so special, and this show is doing that. And I'm lost with these kids in the galaxy, and that's to create that feeling. Like I just hats off to John Watts.
The other thing I want to say is that they found a way to take like Amblin, like it's just the Amblin feel. They did it right. It's absolutely there, but they were able to do it without feeling like something like Super 8, where Super 8 just felt like a pale imitation of an Amblin film.
It's tough to be comparative like that though. Like they're both fun. Like it's fine.
No, I'm sorry. I will not join you there.
So never say anything bad about Super 8 to Grant.
No, I think the setup's great. The setup's great. I love the idea, and the first half really gets the Amblin stuff, and then it kind of loses it. And what I say about this is it does it, but it iterates on it in a really creative way. Where I'm like, the fact that like this is so close to a Goonies vibe, and yet they didn't find the treasure map. They themselves are the treasure map.
So this is the most interesting dynamic of the plot. Is kids are always going to find a treasure that is elsewhere in the world, the galaxy, the setting.
Yeah, never saw
it. It is their own homeworld, which is the treasure that all the pirates have been trying to get to for what seems like possibly hundreds of years. They have Old Republic credits there. Was this planet, sort of settled, or actually just maybe the government that is currently in charge took charge during the Old Republic? Like, are those credits from that?
A lot of theories.
Let's talk about that. We will get there.
Yeah,
Where do you guys,
you guys were.
You guys want to talk the beginning, like chronologically? Yeah. What do you want to do?
Well, I definitely. I mean, I don't know where we're gonna go, but I do want to start at the beginning because I thought it was powerful and important.
Good place to start.
I mean, we could start from just so they didn't have a crawl; they just had a couple of sentences, and it's just like, okay, the show's gonna be about pirates. That's who you're worried about.
But it was an affecting crawl. I was an affecting
good crawl.
Series of
sentences.
It reminded me of Solo. One of my favorite things of Solo is the not crawl at the beginning of Solo.
Yeah.
Like I love that just setup. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just sort of nice. It was just like, the High Republic defends the galaxy in the in the wake of the Empire, but some quiet hyperlanes are vulnerable to pirates, vicious pirates who emblazon their ships with I forget the word. They emblazon their ships with symbols that read
surrender or die.
Surrender or die.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah.
And then we just get the first scene of A New Hope, and I have no complaints.
Yeah, it was complaints. It was like, wow, okay, let's go. And Adam will get into that, but a few pirates.
That was
blow your mind.
That was the moment I was a little. That was the only moment I was a little concerned, because it started out so clearly an homage to A New Hope, where I'm like, I loved it with what they're doing, but I'm like, oh, is this just going to be reference after reference after reference? And literally, that's like the last clear one. And I'm like, once I knew there was nothing else coming, I went back. I wouldn't have a chance to rewatch it, but I just watched that opening scene. I'm like, this is great. This is perfect now. That I know you're not going to just be doing this constantly, but it's like it familiarizes you. You're in there, you know it, but a little twist on it.
They just wanted you to put you in the galaxy far, far away and give you something familiar before they go to like space suburbs.
The whole set piece there is basically these like boarding tunnels that drill into another ship and sort of lock in place, and so all the pirates can board the ship, and it's sort of a pillage. And I was just for me it was like you'd think they would have like laser components and melt into the metal in the other ship or something. Like I was just worried about the air in that sequence and the pressure. I was like, this is Star Wars. We're okay. We're fine. We're safe here. I wasn't like hard science fiction was creeping in that moment in my thoughts, but I just thought, I was just like, this is Star Wars. Most people can dance in space for 5 minutes and then get back in the ship in Star Wars.
Did you peep the design of the attacking pirate ship?
Was it a Pelta class? What was it?
It was brand new. It was really cool. So it has like sort of a long ship and then like a fin underneath that goes down like hundreds of feet down and then spreads out to another component of the ship. We see it again docked in Port Borgo in episode 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really cool design. And because I was like, I didn't like even check it out the first time, but I just watched it again, and like that was my major take. I was like, oh wait, I need to like see this ship and see what this looks like.
And then you saw the most metal sequence in Star Wars ever, which is basically a werewolf guy walk out of smoke.
So is this now time to discuss?
Yeah, Ben has been waiting for this moment.
Yeah, let's go. Adam's gonna learn us about werewolf guy.
Yeah.
So Brutus is I gotta be real careful with this name. Schistavenin.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the species name.
Yeah.
Don't get the T and the S mixed up, as I did the first couple times I tried to say it.
My dog is obsessed with what you just said.
Yeah. So Brutus and this reminds me of watching Star Wars A New Hope pre the new editions.
Right, because there was a Schistavenin in Chalmun's Cantina, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
The Rick Baker original.
Rick Baker original, but it was basically after they
it was werewolf in London or something. What was it?
So Lucas, even after he shot it, Lucas never liked it because he's just like, there's just a werewolf in the galaxy, and I'm like, yeah. As a kid, it scared the crap out of me.
Terrifying. Yeah.
It's terrifying, and so now to see it now like actually moving into live action, I'm like, it's like a little kid dream come true, which is like most of the show.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's so cool. It's just this is their only appearances.
He seems like a chaotic evil sort of.
There's already a Black Series figure coming. Cannot wait to get that.
He has like he looks like Blackbeard really. He's got like 3 pistols on his blasters on his chest, and all that. Yeah, it's classic. I mean, it's just heavy with the piracy theme, but like not badly done, man. I really not cheesy. And I hate to compare, but I do kind of like this pirate portrayal a little better than what is it, Gorag, or I can't remember the guy's name from
Gorian Shard.
Gorian Shard, thank you.
Mandalorian.
Yeah, Gorian Shard. That felt too close to what we think of as human pirates, and this feels like just off. I mean, Star Wars, just off enough that it doesn't feel like it's like just doing. Yeah,
and they did really great things with creature effects. And it's brutal.
So many.
I have the recesses of my mind saying keep Star Wars weird, and I hope they did that.
Thank you.
I think they did it right, and like because the creature effects and then the violence was really great.
Yeah, so Carly was like the first opening scene. She loved this too, by the way. But the first opening, she's like, this is more violent than I was expecting for like their kids show. And I'm like, well, and I was just like, yeah. And then I'm like, well, every Star Wars except for Revenge of the Sith, the first 5 are PG films. Yeah. Right. And like there's arms cut off and there's blasters. Like Star Wars is inherently violent, which now I'm having to deal with my daughter knowing that, because I got a Star Wars advent calendar.
It's like pew violence though. It's like a laser bolt.
I mean, and Ish Teeb got his eye shot off.
Teeb, the first a moment of violence in the show is an Ishi Teeb getting like pegged in the eyeball, which is tough for me because I love Ishi Teeb.
Which the other thing, but an
ECT with an eye patch, even better.
Right? The Jakku comics, Siege of Jakku comics right now, because there's he's not an ECT, but there's things you can do after you lose your eye in the Star Wars.
There is, and that character, as we'll talk about, is a returning character, one of my favorites from another comic. Just stick an IG-88 head on there. So
Whoa, that's all right. That's a call.
Literally,
but I was the other thing I realized about this segment is like this is because the violence never is in the first 2 episodes. It never gets close to that again, right? It's really chaotic violence.
The end of the second one is pretty violent. They set like the shopkeeper on fire. They like sear a guy's face with a hot shield. Like that I thought was even.
I want to save that. I do.
Okay. All right.
But that was the other time I was like, okay.
No, that's good though. You need to set those stakes. I mean, like if stakes are not set and there doesn't feel like there's real danger in the galaxy feels like like a joyride, which is it's great. Like I get that there is the fun joy, bombastic Star Wars adventure that I love. I love that part of it. But if you don't have the stakes part of it, like the Darth Vader part of it, it just doesn't work, honestly.
Yeah.
Star Wars is scary. There's scary elements.
And so is Goonies. I was really young when I went to see Goonies in the theater, and I was terrified.
It is.
I was obsessed with Goonies for that reason. I mean, the scenes with the Tartellis and like the threatening to put his hand in a blender.
You're right.
Chunk's hand in a blender is crazy violent when you think about that. Yeah, and like there's dead bodies with bullet holes in their head in the Goonies. Like the Goonies is wild.
It's like criminals like manipulate kids. It's like terrifying.
Yeah. Anyways, super great scene. I have to admit though, I'm like I was like, well, that's Jude Law, aka
that's Jude Law.
Like, can we talk about that? Because he felt like the most violent pirate amongst them, like the captain. He felt like
he threw that guy out an airlock, or had someone throw out.
I think multiple people died, right, by Jude Law's hand at the beginning of this show.
Yeah.
He's a killer, essentially.
He's a killer. Yeah, it'll be interesting, and we can follow up with what we think about that. But like, it's so interesting to me, and I'm not trying to say this to think I'm so smart, but Carly also had it pegged immediately. She's like, she forgot Jude Law was in it. So literally at the end of the second episode, she saw Jude Law, and she's like, oh, that was Jude Law at the beginning of episode 1, right? And I'm like, but like it's one of those things where they didn't try to hide it. They didn't
it was very simple.
His movements are Jude Law's movements. That was actually, I'm pretty sure that was actually Jude Law and not a body double in that, because it looked like his physique. It's the way he walks, and so they're not trying to hide it that much, which I think is interesting.
I think because it raises the stakes when you see Jude Law again. You're sort of like, he's not a great person.
Him?
Oh, he has the Force, but like this isn't the White Knight savior that you think about when you think about the Jedi.
No.
And what Wim is hoping he will be, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right, because we're led to believe by the end of episode 2 that this could be a Jedi, but I think after watching some of the trailers that I've seen that just are blasted at you during NFL games, it's like it looks like he's like just a pirate, or like seems like a scoundrel type character. And
well, I mean, I'm not afraid to say it now. Like, I smell a redemption arc here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And, and we'll see. Like, it's probably like, right, Wim is going to be like, but you're supposed to do good things. Like every time he does something awful, and it's like, this is not what you stand for. And
but
like,
there is like kind of like there's a Kylo Ren on Jakku kind of thing there, where it's like he does kill people in the beginning of this, so it's going to be redemption. That's Star Wars, but it's also simplified the whole mask thing. Like the idea of the mask doesn't have to be veiled in mystery. It can be like a symbol, right? A mask is also a symbol.
Right.
A lot of.
And the reason he puts it on, I mean, right, exactly. He's putting it on because he's not a Jedi when he's wearing that mask, right? He's a pirate. Like that's the thought. It's like, and I don't mind that. Like it reminds me of like Caleb Dune, right? Like when we meet him at the beginning of Rebels, and it's a kids show. Yeah, he's really not a Jedi.
He's a drunk truck driver.
Yeah,
he's a Western. Right. Like that's the thing. Is like when they're lost, and to have him come back to the light, if that's where they're going, I find infinitely interesting. As long as they please God. Do not let it be a sacrifice play. Let this man live and have to live with the redemption.
Jude Law out there in the galaxy.
Yes, please.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, please.
Possibilities.
And again, we don't know timelines to any of this stuff either, and they've kept that part vague enough where it's just like, all right, so how long has he been on the lam since, Order 66 and evolved into this? Like, how long has he been a pirate?
Star Wars comic series, Jadna Nawood? Like, could you
let's go.
Sure. That title is awesome on a comic.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I mean, you open up a whole bunch of things. They seem to be like pirates make sense, like synergy with.
But he is taking a few people's lives in that first sequence, I believe.
Which means he's taken lives before.
Yeah. It didn't seem like he was new to this crew. He's been the captain, and they are.
I have a theory for what's going on, but I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it until like episode 4.
Okay.
I just think like the Jedi are a known faction. Like, I'm sure we don't know his relationship to the Jedi yet
in the galaxy at this time, which makes sense.
Whereas the main character, the main kid, I would say of the 4 is greatly idealizes the Jedi.
Yeah,
super.
And so there's something with the Jedi that has yet to pay off. Jedi Temple has been mentioned in the beginning of this show as what I think is a massive setup.
Yeah, I mean, we know that, in season 3 of The Mandalorian, or is that in Book of Boba Fett? But either way, it's in Book of Boba Fett. Luke is actively constructing his Jedi Temple.
Yes.
This takes place after that because we know that one pirate is from what's it's called?
Varga.
Vega. So Varga. So this is Varga survives, right? We see Varga survive. In that, we see this is after that, and I think they've confirmed this is like within the timeline. I think there was something where Filoni or someone else said this does take place technically after Ahsoka. Like they are the order of these Vane. There you go, Vane. So at this point, we know that Luke is out in the world building a Jedi temple, right? So this could be, if it's a year or two later, he could actively, and even before that, could have actively been training Jedi. So you're right, Grant. They could be actually actually active in the galaxy in some way.
Well, I think just for Wim to see a Jedi temple at the end of the show would make my heart sing, honestly. My heart would sing. It they're setting up what I think is probably the most poignant moment of like observing a temple that you can have, because all this kid wants to do is see a Jedi temple.
Dude, I am Wim.
It was Ben.
I'm Wim right now. I'm like 46-year-old Wim. Well, like I want to see a Jedi temple, Grant.
Like I want to go.
I just want to see a Jedi temple.
That's why this show works. We are all Wim. Every Star Wars fan is Wim. Like it is so clearly like the fact that they have him like drawing Jedi at school, reading about Jedi at night, playing lightsaber duels with his friend, like having action figures on his bed. Like this is every child who grew up with Star Wars and is a nerd and a dork and awkward.
Yep.
And this is every Star Wars fan ever. And this is why the show is ubiquitous. Like this is why everyone's just falling in love with it. And it's so manipulative, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Like you love Return of the Jedi. Just for all of its strangeness.
Yeah.
And you're
as long as you're not that evil.
You think it's an expertly made film. You're upset with it.
And
that's a Star Wars fan to me. It's like because I do see the flaws in Return of the Jedi. I do feel it could turn people away, and even the Phantom Menace, could cause people to go into distress. But I was like, These first movies are actually my favorite ones. Like the number one in all the series, are my favorite films because they just feel like such a bold, a big.
They're introducing you to the world.
Like, here's a lot of stuff at once. I hope you love this.
Yeah. God, I just love the way
these first two episodes just crush that. And meeting Wim, meeting Neil. Neil is like a top 10 character for me at this point.
Yeah.
Heart of the show. Like he's the heart character. Every group has the heart. He's the heart.
Yeah.
Fern is the leader, the charisma, and then KB's the brain, and then Wim is the dreamer, right?
I love KB. KB is like my favorite. My secret favorite of this whole thing. I just love
KB is the Gungan. He's Jar Jar Binks in a lot of ways, but try not to let that ruin him for you. He's also the one that bumbles and stumbles.
KB is the girl with the.
KB is the one with the visor. Are you thinking of Neil? Are you thinking of
binaural?
Sorry, I said KB. I meant Wim.
Neil. Oh, Wim.
Yeah, because Wim kind of.
Oh yeah, no, he's totally awkward. He accidentally. Yeah.
He's the one that sort of stumbles through. But I mean, that's the one controlled by the Force. It's just like, and he is our avatar, I think.
Wait, he's controlled by the Force. Whoa, spoilers! What are you talking about?
Well,
as in everyone is the way of the will of the Force.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like
the whole galaxy feels special in that way. Yes.
In Star Wars, it feels like this Force does touch certain individuals. One being like Han Solo, another being Jar Jar Binks.
Example.
Like Jar Jar Binks definitely controlled by the Force. He just stumbles and
why
bumbles.
Are we going to this Jar Jar? What? Are you seriously talking about Jar Jar Binks right now?
Yeah.
I hate the comparison.
Okay,
I know. I guess
it feels like a branching topic, and I want to do an episode next week on Jar Jar Binks because I think he's fantastic. I think people want to know more.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to be an edgelord here. I think he just he's that guy that just he's he's clumsy, but I feel like his clumsy is him is the Force just nudging him.
Well, the point is you have the most poised warriors in the galaxy, and then you have to put something that creates conflict with that. And that's essentially what George thought would be. Jar Jar Binks would be a great contrast for that. And I was like, I at the time was a 10-year-old kid, and I was just like, this is awesome, and Jar Jar Binks is hilarious. And then I understand older fans maybe being.
I was 19. I did not feel the same way.
I understand.
I thought it was cool. I was like, okay, I just was like, that's cool, fine.
Yeah. I was gonna say though, and the other reason too is to have a character like this and like Jar Jar is like in the story when the four of them are on the ship, it's like none of the other three are gonna push that button. Wim's the only one that's gonna push the button, right? And stumble.
You need the guy to push the button.
100%.
The way that scene is, it's it's condensation on like a Coke bottle. That scene, it's like you would push that button. You would drink that Coke. It was like was the way the button was lighting up.
Green.
I was like, of course, it's green.
It's like Luke's lightsaber green. Yeah. Like, let's go. And
that's the new let's go meme, honestly.
Yeah. So speaking of lightsabers, did you see the translation of the text he was reading?
Oh my God, no. Did you? Tell me you did.
Did you freeze frame on that?
No. I trusted the internet. I trusted Instagram to show me 30 versions of this.
Oh, cool.
Because I don't have the text memorized.
There was a bunch of text, wasn't there? He looked at a lot of pages.
He looked at a lot of pages. They're all translated. It is a story of a dark side and a light side user. It is not Luke. It is not anyone we know. It's no names are there. It's really much just telling generally what Jedi are. It's very vague.
Like a Path of the Jedi sort of thing?
Like a Path of the Jedi.
Makes me think this planet has gone into isolation a long time ago, possibly during the Old Republic, in the time when the Jedi were plentiful and Guardians of the Galaxy. But when this planet, but also it could be a separatist world. Like there's also a fascinating political story you could weave, which is like this could be a separatist world that was like the Republic was falling and turning evil, and we sealed ourselves off, and then now we're like the New Republic's actually something we can help, and they're totally like helping the New Republic now. But it's like before they were very skeptical, skeptic of the Republic, the original Republic, the fall, and sort of what happened there in the Empire. The rise of the Empire was. I can't believe people weren't jarred by the rise of the Empire. Honestly, it just.
Yeah. No, I agree. So let's back up for a second to bring in the listeners. So I think we can maybe all agree that the surprise biggest mystery of this show is what the heck is going on at Aten, their home planet. It's because they set you up with the crawl by first saying the New Republic. That's the first thing the crawl says, right? Which is like prime you to think, okay, this is a New Republic world. And when they went into it, it seemed off to me. I liked it. I liked the design, but something seemed wrong. And then when they're in the school, I was like, I was literally sitting there going like, this does not sound like the New Republic. Do you know what this sounds like to me? This sounds like the First Order. This is First Order brainwashing. This is the first Order world, and these kids are the ones being brainwashed to be First Order officers.
Oh, that's genius. That's actually exactly what's happening. Because that's actually, I feel that. Now that you said that, I feel that. Because like, there's something going on with Carrie Condon's character where she is like, we must help the New Republic, and like, but like then there's almost like a caste system, and you have to take this placement test.
The Great Works, the caste system.
Yeah, and I was just like, okay, so
none of the kids, when they ask the kids, it is. And when they ask the kids, what do you want to be? Everyone before Wim talks about being just a cog in the machine. None of them say, I want to be a pilot. I want to be I want to be anything. None of them talk about space travel. None of them talk about anything other than being part of a bureaucracy.
An analyst.
Right? Like, and then Wim is the one, he gets shushed because he's drawn a Jedi. He gets shushed because he's talking about adventure, right? Like,
it's the Apollonian world with the Dionysian kid, almost, which is so beautiful.
Anyway, that's my theory. But I was thinking maybe similar. It could be Old Republic, could be a separatist world. I think all these are viable. But my first thought was like, this feels like First Order meets very order focused. You're right. The whole
Adam, if it's not that, I'm now going to be upset. That's such a good theory. That's such a perfect theory for what this show's about. Because it should be that sort of like oppressive sort of governance and surveillance kind of society that like that because the kids are escaping, they're going on an adventure, they're breaking free of some sort of system and the ordinary world, and what better than to make it sort of like this either like a late stage imperial world, right? Like an imperial doctrine sort of has guided this world to be in this state, right, where it's like hyper capitalist and hyper sort of like I guess it's almost like a strange sort of like working economy where it's just all based on work and it's working long hours and whatever. And I was like, okay, this is weird.
It's also brilliant because again, this was formed off of the the Amblin verse, which are all like 80s movies. And all I can think of is just like, this is totally like being a kid in the 80s, because all your parents are like, you're all latchkey kids. You're working like crazy. Like it's all about the economy. It's all about like, it just felt like the 80s again, of just like this idea of like the rebel kids were like on their bikes. The rebel kids were on their bikes.
It felt like, that's what we did. It felt like everyone had like an office job with a briefcase. It felt like, and the dad especially was like, Space Dad, by the way, was everything I dreamed of. I was just like, this is exactly the character that you put as the father of this kid.
Space Dad.
I'm all about work. And I'm working long hours.
Single father grinding, trying to make a edge out of living. Yeah,
I love this.
Do you know the house is awesome. You know what awesome. And it just is incredible.
Yeah, they're all these like mid-century modern
I live in any of them.
Yeah, they're all the same. It looks like they're very similar. But they're beautiful.
Neil's house was.
Neil's was popping off.
Nice little add-ons to that house.
Did you see how big his bubble bath was? It was like a swimming pool.
I forgot about the bubble bath scene. Like, I mean, that's the thing about the show.
That looks like one of the greatest sort of bathroom setups I've seen in a long time. Although it's kind of creepy that the vantage point was us behind like Wim's shoulder, looking down through the skylight into the bathroom. I was like, this is an invasion of Neil's privacy, and Neil is like the standout character of this crew. Like,
he's kind of the heart. Yeah, Neil is kind of amazing. Do you see the sort of clever thing they did with the CG? Like when we first meet Neil, they have the sword fight battle and he's laughing or something, and he tilts his head back and you can see his mouth under his snoot, and it's like clearly CG, but that's like fine. And he's laughing and it's really fast. And then
he's
it's like
CG enhanced, I think, throughout, which is a great choice, because this is I think one of the things I said about Ahsoka was I felt her. Leku needed to be like a little bit of that. You need that. Just to like, you need both. Be like captivating. Like, whoa, just looking at her head tails are like captivating, honestly. Yeah. Like, she's just a very interesting character.
And it didn't pull me out.
I know.
CG elements. Yeah.
And looking at the producer list of this show, like and like post producer list, like all these, like all co-producers, they're all the same people as every other show in Star Wars. So it's like let's share information here. Let's, I really think they need to do that for Ahsoka season 2. Is like animate the Lekka.
Well, maybe they're experimenting with Neil, and Neil's like the first sort of CG enhanced.
Yeah. Maybe this is another development.
It's a low
hybrid,
stakes. If it doesn't work, it's not going to pull you out of the show. But it is. I mean, this is part of the Mandoverse, right? They've been very clear about that. Yeah. So, like, that's the other reason I think it's First Order, because he has said multiple times that the Mandoverse is going to be about the rise of the First Order in some way. He said that way back before season 1 of the Mando. Okay. We talked about it years ago. And
my theory is it's a jaded world that saw the Republic fall. It was a separatist world that saw the Republic fall and was like, "Oh, we're going to isolation."
I love that too.
I cannot like the Empire is definitely evil.
Yeah.
Like, and we believe in Jedi, and Jedi lore lives here.
Yeah,
I mean, because when the First Order just like sort of burn those books or something, like I don't know.
Yeah.
Those holodecks. I feel like they wouldn't want Jedi kids to be, obsessing about the Jedi. I guess the system again with the surveillance system with the droids. The droids are very interesting to me. That's why I say separatist world, because I'm like the droids to me seem like a part of Wat Tambor and Trade Federation, like this whole broad droid.
All the teachers, all the schools are 100% droid. Which I liked, actually.
There's a lot of droids. But the supervisor, have we met the supervisor? I heard
no.
Supervisors.
No, the supervisor has been teased quite a bit.
This is so. I mean, I think the supervisor will ultimately be the captain of that down ship, or a relative of the captain.
I planted that theory on text.
Or
Hux. What if the ship is like involved with the society here, like somehow?
Yeah. No, that makes too much sense, man. I mean, the captain's not there. It landed on this planet.
The captain. Yeah.
Like, what if? I mean, well, I guess you and I talked about this.
It's a weird theory.
I don't think it is. You and I talked about this. I buy that. I mean, they could all be pirates or descendants of pirates.
It's a crazy cool idea that like it's almost pirate redemption right there, where it's like we then redeemed ourselves and we got rid of our worst part of ourselves, which is what this pirate life is. Pirate life, right? Like what did you say at the beginning? It's like surrender or die or something. The pirate motto. So like that's the show, right? Surrender or die. Like being a pirate is about this almost like a death mark, right? It's like almost like it's not a good life. It's a life about like taking things and just being an awful person. And it's
maybe
like, you have to redeem yourself from being a pirate. Maybe is the Jod Nanawud thing, and that's you could connect the planet to that by making the captain of that down ship sort of part of the planet's story in some interesting way.
You could turn that creed around, and they had to surrender or die, and they decided to surrender themselves to this life and just stay here and quit the life and just be create a civilization and do the thing that's not.
There's so many cool options. I like the First Order theory. That might be my favorite. Then second theory is my separatist theory, and third is now this theory of the. I
have no dogs in this fight, and I'm happy any of these directions.
Any direction, and
I will say, another one thing is. The supervisor, whatever that name is,
supervisor, yes,
it's gonna be Hux the Senior, because we already saw him in season 3 of Mando. He was in that Skype call, right? Because it was Donald Gleason's.
You're talking about the Shadow Council now.
The Shadow Council. It was Donald Gleason's brother played him, right? Played the character. Who was obsessed with raising children to be children soldiers? Because remember that when we learned about it, they had all these. The First Order had all these different ideas about how they were going to like build the First Order, and Hux the Senior was like, "I'm going to take the child soldiers over here and do my thing." We never really got anything in New Canon about where he was doing that, and so this is my theory. This is his grand experiment.
Brendel Hux.
Brendel Hux.
Brendel, is that? Thank you. I couldn't remember his name. Brendel Hux.
His son is Armitage.
Doesn't he take a bunch of kids like Phasma to like a desert world, and he's like. Fight for a scrap of meat or something. I forget.
Yeah, I think he might die on Jakku, Brady.
Does he?
Brendel, yeah, I think he does in Aftermath. Yeah,
but he's alive in season 3.
No, he's alive after.
He's alive in season 3 of the Mando.
I'm so sorry. You're very right.
Yeah,
you're very right. I forgot about that. So I guess he got out of there.
No, that's the point. He's sort of like the First Order, like Brendel Hux.
Oh right, no,
Ray
you know
Sloan,
what?
Hellion, Thrawn. Thrawn has to now intersect with the First Order, which is fascinating to me. I don't know how the Brain Trust is going to navigate sort of Thrawn interacting with the First Order, because Thrawn would just thwart the First Order.
Yeah, that is a needle to thread.
I mean,
that's going to be tough.
It would be fun if Snoke like killed Thrawn, or like one of them actually like pinned down Thrawn, or used him and then killed him or something. That would be kind of fun.
Or hints of the Palpatine living, right? Like,
yeah,
Palpatine turn is just something that we think is a late stage thing, but it's not. It's essentially can be now woven into the story earlier. Now that they have that information sort of locked in.
Yeah.
So like now we can do like, oh, Palpatine's clones, like Palpatine lives. Thrawn has a relationship with Palpatine. That's like holy territory. That
would make sense, actually.
Novels. That's like
yeah.
That's incredible. That's like great to me, the most interesting conversation you can write in Star Wars is Thrawn and Emperor Palpatine talking. It's I can't think of a more interesting moment. It's like it's fast. There's so much buried meaning and layer in those scenes, that kind of idea that like for Thrawn to understand Snoke, understand Palpatine, have dialogue moments before he's just force crushed or whatever you're imagining. It's like I think I need that, honestly.
Yeah,
like
I could see like Ghost of Palpatine using Thrawn as a tool. See them communicating all that, and then at the last minute, he's like
full mist.
He uses like Snoke emerges and cuts him down, or just like strangles him and like and kills Thrawn. And like you've served your purpose and now you're done. And like in that last moment, Thrawn realizes his last mistake.
Yeah, I mean that's totally a Palpatine.
Whatever he says.
Yeah, I mean it's totally a Palpatine Thrawn move, right?
Because, but Thrawn should be too smart for that. I don't know. It's a tough thing. Thrawn's a tough nut to crack because
Thrawn will think he's killing the Emperor and whatever he's doing, and then the Emperor will be like, "Oh, I'm reborn behind you, and I'm Snoke. Hi," and like you know what I mean? It's like, oh.
I mean, he is too smart for that. But if you watch like every episode of Rebels, he is somewhat easy to dupe.
Yeah, he has some blind spots.
Yeah,
it's definitely.
But I feel like his blind spot is the Force. I feel like that's consistently his blind spot in even the novels, in Rebels, and in Ahsoka even.
Yeah.
Like he does not understand how to account for magic, basically, because he's such a logical person. He can't get his head around like magic, basically. You want something light that I noticed in both these episodes is they're trying to reference / redeem things from the most despised areas of old EU.
All right.
I want to talk about this later in the way later in the podcast, but go ahead.
Just a couple of funny references. There's a direct recreation of a scene from the holiday special.
No.
When Neil and his siblings are watching the little like the choreography thing on the holopad.
Yeah.
That's directly that is they remade it shot for shot from the holiday special because Chewie's son is watching that in the treehouse.
Is there so what's cozier, seeing Grogu drink like some tea on Sorgan, or like seeing like Neil and his family watch this like the circus of the holiday special?
It was just his brothers. Neil was in the bubble bath.
Oh, that's right. He was in the bubble bath.
It was just his siblings.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because it was. And by the way, his little brothers, if you
they're
thought
so cute.
Neil was a cute kid, like.
I know.
Like
it's ridiculous.
Neil's little brother was like heart melting. It was game over for anyone watching that show.
Yeah.
I was like, this show is just gonna get 5 stars everywhere just for Neil's little brother.
Yeah, right. And then the other one, and I don't have the name of these things, so you're gonna have to like forgive me for this, and I'll try to see if I can figure it out because I wasn't thinking about it. It just popped in my head.
Their family, like their species.
No. So in the second episode when they're on we just said earlier, and I lost the name already. The Borgo.
Port Borgo.
Port Borgo.
So in Ewoks, Battle for Endor. Remember, like the HBO movies in the 80s?
Yeah.
That are really bad. But there's a species that are also on Endor that I can't remember what they're called, and I'll come up with a name. But they show you one in Port Borgo. So just bring that species back from that thing. It's hilarious. And I will say, I did not notice that. Carly pointed it out because Carly grew up watching, like she still thinks to this day, she's pretty sure her first exposure to Star Wars was the Ewok movies on HBO.
Oh my god.
Where was was this character?
Just hanging around in Port Borgo. So just like he was just there.
He wasn't the one where they're like, look, aliens. They look so funny.
Maybe. I'd have to see. It might have been at that.
It looked like a warthog or something,
No, so they're called teak. That's the name of what their the species is, and so it was like they're little guys, Like probably like this tall. They're like the same size as like what's his name from episode 9.
So not the ferryman, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, like he's just they're a little guy.
Babu Frick.
Babu Frick, like same size as Babu Frick.
I forget
Yeah.
every time I forget Babu Frick exists, and then I remember he exists. It's a great moment in my life.
And
Yeah.
Zellens.
And
Yeah, and Zalans, thank you. Yeah. Yeah,
the
and they're
little
like,
freak from episode 9, as Han Solo would say.
yes, yeah.
Oh god.
That's
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah, that monkey thing
it's-
on Fort Borgo was, I think, one of my favorite characters. And again, that was weird. It was like any other movie. It's like it would be just like a weird character that's kind of like a day player, and it's like kind of weird and doesn't work. And like this monkey being like the weird just taxi driver was just.
Oh, awesome.
It was like, okay, this is what Star Wars' secret power is. It's like those scenes that are just throwaway in movies, like they're actually always good because Star Wars can a new crazy fun character you've never seen before, and like reinvent the whole like, I need a tip to go drink sort of like idea with just like in a fun way. I thought it was so funny.
Yeah. No, it was so great. I mean, listen, we're all always like more aliens, please, more non-humans, and we just got like a cornucopia.
So you're talking about the bartender character was like a warthog kind of character.
Yeah.
No, there was another guy that walked by when they first land in Port Borgo.
I know.
The kids are like, and it was. I was like, who is he pointing at, like specifically? And I think it was like a warthog character, but he had like 2 or 3 like horns on his snout instead of just like one pair.
Yeah.
2 or 3 pairs. But
before we jump there though, did we love the bike, the whole like, speeder bikes in on Manhattan and the roads there and like the secret path, the like shortcut, the like all that stuff. I liked all that stuff. I thought it worked, and then I thought Discovery of the Ship worked. It totally worked. It was like, and that was like, I was like, oh, the Discovery of the Ship, as he finds it, talks about it at school. Like the mystery envelops the town for a second. Definite Stranger Things sort of influence there, where it's sort of like the mystery doesn't just get solved immediately. It's almost like it envelops the area for a second, and then they return, and then they open it, and it's like I was like blown away when we sort of got inside, and then the whole Jedi Temple thing was crazy to me. I was like, this is not a Jedi. Like you'll see a Jedi Temple by the end of the show. It's just you're nowhere near.
I'm holding you to that, Grant.
Yeah,
I better see. A Jedi
I think you
Temple.
will. I think it's set up in a huge way, basically, like a Jedi or a Jedi Temple of some kind. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I love that, and I would love to see that, and that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you're building up his obsession with that and wanting to see it, thinking he's going to see it. You have to let the kids see it by the end of the season, right? Like it feels like a rug pull if you don't. But I agree. Like just the Discovery of the Ship, I was sitting there going like watching the show, and I'm like, this is masterfully done, because you give him a discovery of the shortcut when he's watching from the bus. He watches the girls do it.
Paced nicely. Yeah.
Right, and then you're like, he's got to get there fast, so of course he's going to use that.
He didn't use the jump.
It was paced perfectly. And it was perfect.
It was such a setup.
It was like a little Modesto suburbia film of like kids going to school, and like it felt like days were going by. Like there's a first day, there's a second day. Like it was paced beautifully. I thought the passage of time was really well done.
That's the other thing I loved about it is wasn't like this immediate. It reminded me of being a kid. It wasn't this immediate thing. Like, I remember discovering things and then having to go
back
to
the
school,
woods the next day.
And
like,
exactly, and then wait to go back to the woods or the bog where I grew up. I went back to the bog to find like the house that was built back there. And we were talking about it all day in school.
Yeah,
because we didn't have a chance to look at it because we found it right before we had to go home for dinner, and then we had to wait an entire day the next day at school to go back out there. Like it just so reminded me of being a kid.
Yeah, they did a nice job of that. I wanted to get into the minutia of the politics for a second. It kind of passed already, but I want to bring it back. The Great Work. Did you guys catch the Great Work?
I did catch that.
I did.
The Great
So
Work.
I looked it up because I was like, wasn't this like some sort of like manifesto of like some like leader or something? But it's not really. It actually, when I looked it up, it's I forget the person's name. There's some philosopher that had this, but it has to do with the arcane, and it has to do with the creation of the great work is magic, ultimately. It says accomplishing the great work, symbolized as the creation of the philosopher's stone. Oh, and great work translates to magnum opus in Latin. Represents the culmination of the spiritual path, the attainment of enlightenment, or the rescue of the human soul from the unconscious forces which bind it. So it's like very much apotheosis. Like this is like it just kind of ties into the whole Campbellian Hero of a Thousand Faces myth, monomyth sort of. I think but I don't know what you guys thought about that, but I just think it's a beautiful shining mystery box that's just going to sit there on Ad-Atten for much later in this show and then ultimately be revealed. But I loved the use of that term. I just thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah, it gave me authoritarian vibe.
Yes,
like chills. 100%. Like the second I heard that, I'm like, this doesn't sound like something the New Republic would do.
Yeah, it's work-based culture, which is interesting. Because I was like, oh, it's all about output and performance and fascinating. Obviously, it mirrors our world, but it's like, but it isn't more. What felt like a very extreme sort of way, which was. And kind of scary for kids, right? To take these placement exams at such a young age. And
at such
his dad
a young age,
sort of haranguing him about it.
So,
that's the wild.
Can I give you guys
100%?
Can I give you a counter argument? Because the great work almost like sounded like something that like FDR would do.
Sure, it's like almost the building of Abrams and the tanks.
And I mean, listen, I don't know this 100%, and I don't live in Germany, but I do know that they are much better at tracking than we are here. And it's sort of like they know that they have X amount of jobs to be done, X amount of fields, and they sort of test people into it early, and then they provide, their upper education, like their high school is like already focusing people on career tracks for jobs that need to be done.
That's not necessarily bad either. Knowing what
that's what I
want
mean.
to do earlier.
No, I'm saying it might not be nefarious.
It's just
it totally might not be.
But it can be benevolent, essentially.
What was it called in the High Republic era? What does Lena So call? Remember, she has a phrase because it also made me think of that, and I can't remember what's.
It's
called,
close to the great work, actually.
It is. It's like it's gonna drive me nuts because I should have looked it up.
Oh, you guys talk about things.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that because this is like, and not like also it is very much, not to get too sociological, like this idea
hold on.
Go for it.
The great works.
It is the great works?
Wow, what a pull. So again, is that this is the Chancellor from the High Republic
the Chancellor
era?
from the High Republic.
Yeah, it's plural.
So then Old Republic credits being on the planet. Okay.
So this place could go back to the High Republic.
Totally could.
I mean, pirate legend is pirate legend. Like, it could go back hundreds of years.
Maz Kanata is also like a pirate queen, essentially. What does that mean?
Are they using
she's in the
nihilist
saga films?
Are they using Nihil technology to block themselves from everybody else?
Nihil is fascinating because Nihil created an occlusion zone of just like piracy and just murder and mayhem. And so it wouldn't surprise me that a planet sort of completely isolates itself, creates a barrier. The droids and the surveillance, sort of like the constant, and they even do a scene where the droids like taking photographs, like one after another, It's very interesting.
It is a surveillance state. I will say it does not take much for a civilization. We see it all the time. I won't go too far with this, but we see it all the time of societies drifting into that, especially after serious victimization of the society, right? And so if this is an organization that formed after the Nihil attacks, it makes kind of sense that they're paranoid, right? And they're focusing on this. And the other thing I was thinking about this to kind of maybe support that idea that this is the High Republic is that, like, it looks like Star Wars, but slightly off. And it's like, maybe this is like what the galaxy would have evolved to if it was isolated. It didn't have all of the wars that everyone else went through, right? Like, it does seem like it is the most idyllic planet we've ever seen.
The spire,
We've
right?
never seen anything like this before.
It is,
right?
But all right, can I just... there's a major conversation going on on planets that are much less important than the galaxy far, far away, and it is this globalism versus nationalism, isolationism, and you're straying far into that because I am a globalist, but like what you're suggesting is that nationalism could possibly lead to utopia.
Well, no, but it leads to false utopias is what we have here, right? Because this seems idyllic, but it's not, because underneath it you have robots surveilling everything you do.
Yeah.
You have placement exams for 10-year-olds. Like it's not good, right? But this is what isolationists view this as, right?
Right. And
this
if
idea
you read,
that we cut ourselves off,
if you read
evolve,
Bloodlines,
right?
and like loyalists in the Senate that are now, there's just sort of a rising of loyalists, of like, I guess, imperial loyalists, essentially a loyalist party, right?
Well,
is that right?
I think
from
no.
Bloodlines?
Bloodlines. It was this isolationist versus globalist mentality.
Mm-hmm.
That was the conversation they were having. Like everyone wants sovereignty, but they're trying to bring people in there.
Well, the imperial sympathizers, I
don't think they
were
were
isolationists.
imperial.
They were like, we don't speak to the broader Senate because we thought the Empire was right. Like and they're not even like sort of. There isn't any sort of penalty for being in favor of the old ways in Bloodlines. It's kind of set up that the Senate is like, oh no, these are just like the loyalists, and the First Order actually isn't like a ruthless, horrific, like fascistic sort of like paramilitary group. It's actually just like part of this loyalist thing. And like, I think Bloodlines sort of creates this like ground for loyalists, the rise of that group, essentially. And that's sort of scary and fascinating, I thought.
It's the populists who favor greater autonomy and the centrists who favor a stronger central government and more powerful military. So that
the centrists, you're right, the centrists, because they were like the core worlds, and like they favored what like the imperial, heart of the galaxy and sort of how efficient things were going before its fall, and they were like, we're centrists.
But Leia was a centrist. So the centrists are actually globalists, and the populists are the sort of they favor are the isolationists, which is like populism, like is also another word for isolationism.
Yeah, often, it is. Yeah,
so that's what it was.
No, but I'm glad we got in this conversation, Ben, because thank you for bringing it up, because I'll be like kind of clarify what I was saying and synthesizing what I'm saying, because I'm not like, this is not good. That's not what I'm arguing is good. But like this idea of you cut yourself off from the galaxy, you're going to evolve differently, right? And if you are not involving with anyone else, you're going to evolve to a point of like, if it works, it works for your planet, but it's not good, right? Like it doesn't do anything for anyone.
I think it's wild that we're having this conversation right now.
Yeah.
I never expected that was where, and I think they ultimately have to sort of address this issue in some way going forward, or it will be some sort of metaphor or parable or something about, centralism and populism. And
Star Wars always is, right? It's always a reflection.
Did not see this one
trends.
coming at all.
No, neither did I. By the way,
that's so interesting. So this is a populist world, essentially.
Maybe,
ideations of how the eventual sort of political dynamic of the galaxy shaped out after the fall of the Empire, which was again these populists, these centrists, and populists believing in a world's an individual planet's sovereignty, autonomy, and centrists sort of like wanting a stronger, sort of broader galactic sort of regime or sort of alliance, right? And that's fascinating to me. That's so
because it's like
to me, it's like we should mine this. We should go there. We should do it.
Yeah.
I want to flash back for a second because on my teak conversation, I think Grant, you mentioned it. You're absolutely right. It was the taxi driver who jumps up on her shoulder and is looking for payment.
That's the character.
That's Teak. That's from the Battle of Endor. I'm sorry, I have the episode going behind me or going next to me, and roll, and I'm like,
I love that character.
I never knew I needed a rat monkey in Star Wars.
Yep.
Did you catch the animation when they first meet him? He scurries off into the cockpit. The animation
was so good.
Awesome.
It looked very practical. It looked like silly.
It was saying it brought to life by puppetry with CG.
Yeah, it had to be CGI when he scampered
took out
off
the strings and everything else. But
it looked beautiful. It looked
so good.
Beautiful when he ran away because he and then just hopped into his little bubble. Oh, it was really cool.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so kids discover a ship. We love it. They go inside. It's perfectly Goonies. They're exploring dark sort of halls of this ship. This destroyed, what looks like ravaged sort of ship, and then they kind of get separated. There's funny antics. Wim starts the ship up. It takes off while his dad's like searching for them, and they blast off into hyperspace, going to episode 2.
Yeah, and episode 2 opens with a false Rancor moment, which is amazing. Right, because they hear growling and screaming at the other end of the thing, and it kind of seems like it's going to be a monster or a Rancor. I mean, we all know what's coming because we've seen the previews, but and it's one of the best characters ever.
Yeah.
It's another fave droid.
I was getting Rogue One Darth Vader hallway scene vibes.
Yep. Totally.
Without the breathing, but it was just sort of like
it's very similar.
The red
right?
lights
with
come
the
through
reveal,
the smoke.
red lights, and the hulking figure coming, and it's
SM-33.
SM-33 or SME.
I've been saying SME.
Right?
Yeah. They have to call him
Peter
Smee
Pan.
at some point. Oh wait,
Yeah.
Who's Smee in Peter Pan? Is he a first mate?
It's Captain Hook's first mate, which
Okay.
totally makes sense.
Okay.
He's Smee. Like it's
exactly,
amazing.
yeah.
It's such a great way to
A
do
little
that.
nod to the mouse.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, there is some synergy here with the greater Disney, pantheon, with the Pirates of the Caribbean sort of affair and all that, which is
all
fine.
I was thinking is, can
fine.
we? So Disney World, Disneyland love to reskin rides. Like so in Disneyland during Halloween, the Haunted Mansion becomes the Nightmare Before Christmas land. So they actually shut it down for 2 weeks and retheme it. It's pretty amazing. They do a good job on it. I'm like, can we? If this is as big of a hit as I think it's going to be, exactly May the 4th. Can we reskin Pirates of the Caribbean? To just be Port Borgo. I'm like, please, this is all I ever wanted.
You could go to Port Borgo.
Just
That'd be
grab that Johnny
also,
Depp animatronic out there
Jedi
and put
Temple
it in
be Port Borgo. If I was a kid, I'd be like, Port Borgo. Port Borgo is kind of awesome.
There's not enough alcohol in Disneyland to make me before I get on that ride.
Temple, we're just gonna. I'll try to levitate some rocks over here. I'll just be over here.
Yeah, levitating
rocks over here.
It's like Port Borgo is just like, what if it's the cantina, but like a lot more. And so I loved it for that reason.
Extra.
Like it's just yeah.
Yeah.
What did we find out about Port Borgo? It's like controlled by Brutus. The sort of.
I don't think so. I think he's just a big player.
Yeah,
because I think he's a feared pirate.
He took control of it.
So this is
I'm confused about who controls Port Borgo.
I'm trying to think back to my pirate lore. This is the Tortuga, right? This is in Pirates of the Caribbean,
Yes,
but that's
Tortuga.
not how I know it. I knew it before those dumb movies. But Tortuga was that area where all pirates could go, basically. That was just neutral ground, and you could go, and it was it just looked like this. And so that's I think what they're.
Yeah, it's in
referring to.
Treasure Island. Isn't Treasure Island have?
I think maybe. I think, and I can't remember if our
literary.
Our flag means death didn't have it, but they had another version
They had
of
a different version of it. And
Tortuga's
Assassin's
definitely
Creed Black Flag had a different version of it too. I actually trust Assassin's Creed most, and I think it was Nassau.
Nassau.
I think it was Nassau
and
Black Sails was also Nassau. For
yeah,
those
I think
you.
you're right. I think it's Nassau, which is also sometimes.
And also, so there's a vein in Black Sails. Did any of you watch Black Sails? Or am I the only loser that watched that show?
You're the only one. I was intrigued by it. I kept almost watching it.
I watched the whole thing. All the episodes of Black Sails. I think it was summertime, and I was feeling piratey, and I just went through it.
As one does.
It's
weird.
A little rum and some pirates.
I could feel space pirate for a long time after this.
Pirates are weird because my 4-year-old knows about pirates. She thinks about pirates, and I'm like, why? You have no reference point for what a pirate is, what a pirate does. I know I've taken you on Pirates of the Caribbean, so maybe that's it. Yeah. But it's just weird. I'm like, why do you think about pirates? Why would you in your life?
Maybe they're so stylized. They're so iconic.
Yeah. It's something about it. It's just really funny. How much it still is in our still in our pop culture. We still, even kids today, still think about pirates. Yeah. It's really weird.
It is wild.
It's funny to see all the ships are moored there, marina, essentially.
Yeah,
that was really, really funny. I knew Ben was loving that. It was you could go back and freeze frame the show and really analyze different hull designs and ships, and there's a lot to look at in this show.
Yeah,
it sort of lets you actually sort of glean what's going on too. It doesn't just sort of there's not two ships, in a sort of dogfight space. It's here's a bunch of ships just sitting there.
Well, yeah, and they strategically placed the Nemesis ship from the first scene directly behind where they park. Mm-hmm. It's just right there in the background. It's the biggest ship in port. It's looming large over everything they're doing.
Totally makes sense. Yeah, I didn't notice it, but that totally makes sense.
Their ship, which I love, it's kind of, well, actually, it's almost like what I would think of a High Republic long beam, but a little more snub-nosed, a little wider, and a little less long.
Looks like a Peltic class frigate. I mean, look at the
The first ship we see is very Carillion class freighter esque. It's like a modern version of the Carillion Corvette.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, it looks so much like the
and
the blockade runner. Yeah,
the blockade runner. Yeah, and
kind of looks like a giant U-wing almost.
Tantu U4. Cool. Yeah.
It has the side. It's a really cool ship design.
It's really neat,
And I can't wait till we get its name, and like we're gonna get all those things.
It's incredibly durable. I mean, like for it to have been buried for that long and sort of like break out of the ground, I was like, dude, this ship is awesome. Like this is if we chose this in a draft, I'm like, they might win the draft. It's like that ship is.
The other thing to mention about like this, how old the ship is, like Smee looks really old. Like it's the only droid we've seen that actually has like that I can think of that has like actually like hydraulics. It almost looks like really old.
His fists are all hydraulic. I mean, the peg leg is beautiful. It's so Nick Frost, right? This is the actor that plays him, and he's doing a fantastic job. More. I already love him. He's like he already saved the day, and it was a gnarly like fight and. Yeah, and the fact that he has a rat that lives in his empty eye socket, like, yes, let's go.
God, it's so good.
Let's go.
It's so good.
Right, because that's such a terrifying feeling too when a kid has money in like a really, sort of
it was scary.
Criminal underworld sort of environment, and it's like he's like flashing his credits around, and it's just like. Eventually all the kids get separated and they get back together, and then like Smee comes to defend them, and it's like. And it's a crazy, another crazy action scene,
super
just like
action-y.
The beginning of the first episode that sort of mirrors, and it's really fun to see now this crazy old pirate droid sort of attacking.
It does, and I want to make a connection with Goonies, fully acknowledging how certain things in movies from the 80s do not age well. But this is the Chunk character, right? Yep. He's very much like Chunk. Like he is because in that movie you can't have the kids doing too much violence because it seems strange. Like I do love that Fern comes in and shoots the blaster up to stop everything, but it'd be weird to watch kids shooting blasters. You don't want that in your show.
Right.
But then you have this giant hulk of a character that's allowed to do do on behalf of the kids, which is like similar to the Goonies with Chunk. Like Chunk is the one who is physically capable of hurting.
And now they have
I have some crazy theories now. Oh my god. You guys, we just talked.
This is why it's fun.
This is fun. My mind, which is just like, I like, oh my goodness. So Carrie Condon is kind of like highlighted in the first episode.
Is her name?
Farah, she has a title too, I believe.
She is the undersecretary.
Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, the undersecretary Farah.
Undersecretary Farah.
10-year-olds.
Yeah.
How old are they? Okay. 10, 11, 12.
I think the misdirection is with Farah in the show so far. I think there's deep misdirection with that character.
How so? Because I think she's a ne'er-do-well, and I mean because she's like, oh, you're first in class again, congratulations. But it felt like she got her first in class through some underdealings. To me, it didn't seem
there's
above
something
board.
more going on with that character.
I read it more like Fern is one of those kids that is extremely smart, but because of her parents doesn't want to demonstrate that. It's like acts out.
I also got that too. Like, she's like she's bored. She's super smart and she's bored.
Doesn't want to conform because her mom's like the ultimate conformer, right? Like, so just wants to
non-conformist.
I just love the characters of the kids. Like each one are so distinct and they have backgrounds. And I think talking about the parents, we know, right? I mean, maybe from the first preview, we see more of Space Dad and the mom are going to be together at some point, right? I think I remember seeing scenes with them together. So I think we are going to cut back to them kind of trying to get their kids back, right? I think we see that, if I remember. So
I mean, if you watch the trailers of this movie, it's kind of like there's a lot. I would just hide from those, honestly. If you
I only saw the first full trailer, and I think I've been keeping myself off the other ones. I was going to say something else. Do we want to talk about the space circle in the room, or do you just want to leave that behind?
Space circle?
Yeah.
What?
So the one of the space pirates is Jaleel White, Urkel.
Oh, Space Urkel.
Yeah, Space Urkel.
Oh, really?
From Family Matters. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
which
one?
Oh,
the only African American pirate there was. Yeah.
That's Urkel?
That's Urkel.
Oh, no kidding.
Carly and I were both like, "Is that Urkel?" And then we had to like search for it. It's Urkel. Yeah.
Honestly, he was the most. His character pulled me out of the galaxy more than anyone else, and it felt like the mods again. Grant. Like
It really, really did.
Yeah. Listen, the mods are growing on me, all right? Like
I love your optimism so
good
much.
for you. I love
the
it.
mods
Love
are growing on me. If mods are just everywhere, and if they're all over the Star Wars galaxy, I'll feel better about it. If they, if they're just riding candy coated mopeds in Mos Eisley or Mos.
If Star Wars has taught me
Pelgo,
anything, if you do it enough, I'll eventually come around and say, yes, that's good. So you're right. The only way for me to like the mods is if you just keep doing it, and I'll eventually give in.
Keep doing it.
I'll just relent and be like, this is a thing now. They feel like who's my least favorite character in Bounty Hunters?
Valance.
Yeah, it's like
yeah.
I'll lump Valance in with those characters too. It just sort of takes. It just feels like a character from a different franchise a little bit.
Well, I mean, KB is kind of a mod. Like she has this whole visor.
The Geordie LaForge visor.
Yeah,
and basically Geordie LaForge from Star Trek, and I was just like, is this this is kind of like fun hard science fiction in what is a sort of
I was trying to figure out if she's a Lobot-esque character, right? Because those things that she has really big things where her visor comes out. But I do love the fact that she can flip them up and down because I didn't see them up at all in any of the previews, and it gives her the ability to be like so much more human to be able to do that, and then like also disconnect. Like I feel like I
thought it was actually really cool. It was,
I love it. And I feel like, but she's very much that character, similar to talking about masks from earlier. She hides behind the visors, right? You see those visors come up in very human moments for her. And then the second anyone's around, they're right back down again. Like, it's like the guy who never takes his sunglasses off.
Right.
Like,
yeah, it's an interesting character. I don't know. I mean, there's some political correctness around that character that I have questions about, but I don't know. It's fine. I don't know.
I thought everything was done extraordinarily well, and I thought just John Watts just really knows how to sort of create an ensemble that I can fall in love with and sort of root for, and Smee as the big hulking chunk character from Goonies is like the big kind of muscle character that the kids can use to sort of get through obstacles.
Connection. You're right.
Is so cool, and I was like, and it's just, and then they get taken away by these pirates, and the whole prison scene, and then meeting this robed guy, shrouded in the darkness of the corners of that prison cell. I was like, oh, this is cool. And then like he comes out, and then Wim obviously thinks this is a Jedi. It connects to the first episode. It connects to his sort of like obsession with Jedi stories and tales and things like that. And then we see the robed figure raise their hand, and after promising to help them, raise their hand and pull the key towards them with the Force.
I think there's gonna be a couple this is gonna be like a really great 4-quadrant like story, because I mean I love the story, the children's story, and I can appreciate their adventure and what they're going through, but I really think you're gonna get. He had the mask on, he had the swashbuckling outfit, he was hiding himself from himself, like, I'm no longer a Jedi, this is how I'm going to make my way in the galaxy, I'm going to be a pirate from whatever time. And then he's stripped down to just him in his robes again and is forced to be introspective. And like his arc is he's coming from zero, essentially, like just being like I'm not worthy, like self-doubt, all this stuff about being a Jedi and the Jedi principles. He's distanced himself for that for maybe decades, and then like now he builds himself back up looking through the eyes of a child, and what reminding him of what he's supposed to be. I think that arc is going to be amazing, and obviously having Jude Law acting it out is going to make it even better. And so we'll have the growth of the children, the progress of the story, but it's the Jad and Wood, I think, is for the people like us.
They're for the adults
on this pod.
We're looking for like John and Wood and Smee and sort of what's going on with
they're going to be able to tackle
characters
some
from the past
issues.
have these past, these dark past, basically.
I mean, thinking about, again, not to always talk about, I mean, we all see what we see through our own lenses and through our own experiences, and like I'm all there for this, seeing himself through the eyes of children, because seeing yourself through the eyes of your children makes you feel the best and worst about yourself you've ever felt in your life.
I believe it.
Like like when you're great with them, you're just like, I'm awesome. I'm like the best person ever. Like when Charlie and I are having like a back and forth, that's like the funniest thing ever. And I'm making her like guffaw. I'm like, I'm the funniest man that's ever lived, even though I know I'm not, right?
Right.
Dude,
And then when
Neil, like, how does Neil not melt your heart? Like, what do you do? You're done. You're
I know.
done.
How do you
Whoever
not
are,
be the best Jedi
anytime,
ever with him
game
right
over.
there? And then when you fail them, even minorly, you just feel like the biggest heel in the world. Like you just feel awful about yourself.
Yeah.
And like I think that's what we're gonna get with him, right? He hasn't been around kids probably forever, and he's just been like, to see himself being idolized and then disappointing these kids. I think it's gonna be really interesting to watch it. And I think you're right. Jude Law to do this is great.
This might be a good time to sort of talk about the space strip club.
Yeah,
I loved that.
Yeah,
that like it's a very brief scene.
That happened in this show. Oh my god! I forgot.
I love how they handled that, and it was like the girls. Fern is a little older, but like they come up on the strip club. The kids like, wow, it's like bright colors and they look nice. And,
it could just be a cantina. I don't think there's anything truly explicit happening.
No, there is.
It's
if they pull away and you see the windows on the side, there are silhouettes of women dancing.
Yeah, it's a cantina with dancing girls or
with
women.
dancing girls.
Yeah, it's highly suggestive of what's going on there.
And it makes sense
graphic.
given where we are.
It's supposed to be like it's supposed to.
And also you
not
have
anything we haven't seen.
The beautiful Thielen we'll talk more about her, and then there's another lady that like trying to pull people in off the street and all that.
That does happen.
But it feels like New
forgot.
Orleans.
Yeah,
it feels like walking down the street in New Orleans, like that.
Yeah,
very much so.
And but it was just like I just thought they handled it really well because the kids were like, oh, what about that place? That looks nice. And then like
they like almost go in there.
Yeah, and Fern
like,
looks and like, but it takes her a minute to sort of put two and two together, and she's like, no, let's do something else. And I don't know. I just thought that was really, and then ultimately it was that the Thielen worker at the door that like really tried to rescue them. It's like, there's no children here. Like you are you children? Like she had to ask,
crazy.
like, is your species is this children for you? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when you're at the mall and you get lost and like you have to go find someone and they're like, "Oh, you're a child and you're lost in the mall." Like it was just like, but obviously.
I don't know how I felt it. I loved that scene. I still don't know, and I have to rewatch how I'm interpreting that scene. Because at first I'm like, oh, is she good? And then I got vibes off of her, which is vibes around everyone else in the spaceport that are trying to take advantage of these kids in some way.
She's not. She's like, we'll get you transported.
No, she's
we'll get
not.
You out
I
of
felt.
Here.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, she's a virtuous character, I thought.
I don't know. I didn't feel it, but yeah, maybe.
Or maybe in her own way. I
don't know. I have
at
to
least
rewatch.
the angle they took wasn't to like
from...
mug them. She was just like, let's get you out of here.
Yeah, and I hope that's true.
Doesn't Fern say they're from At-Atten? And she's like, where? What?
Yeah,
and I was like, okay.
Yeah,
like,
she's like, you're gonna need a better story than that.
You're lost though as a kid. Is the person who's trying to help you actually just doesn't know how to help you really, and it's like it's actually just furthering the tension with how scary it is to be lost here, which is great. And I thought David Lowery, I think, directed the second episode, and I thought he just did sort of like a great job of sort of making it sort of feel strange and like, oh, these kids are really lost and they're really not finding any good avenues of help until they're imprisoned and they meet this guy who lifts this key off the wall for them.
Yeah.
The rat bit was great too, though. By the way,
the
like
rat
keeping
bit
the rat.
The rat in the eyeball. It was like he gets smoked, and then the like rat comes out, and he's also a little charred, and he's like,
with Smee, you get Smee and like maybe like 3 or 4 rats, basically. They're like to Smee as a character.
No, that rat is going to be a reoccurring character.
That rat's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
That's their pet. I just the other thing I just want to say about David Lowery. We talked a bit about this. I don't know, a couple of weeks ago when they announced the directors. I mean, perfect person for this, right? Because it is like, if you're going to pick one person to direct basically what is a 30-minute cantina scene, right? This is perfect. Yep. Like all the aliens, all the weirdness, and he's also directing next week's episode. So he's the only person other than John Watts that's directing 2 of them. So if we're gonna get a little more of, I mean, I assume we're gonna get more. I
think we're gonna get the escape.
Yeah, the escape, which I know, which makes sense that like you have your first experience of that space magic in this episode to be directed by David Lowery makes a ton of sense, right? This person is just gonna.
I can't wait to see a sort of like I don't know, like a jack of all trades use the Force, like someone who's just not a Jedi, like
has no
to me,
guiding.
That's so exciting. There's no guiding principles. Exactly. It's like fascinating to see just this everyman sort of use the Force. It's going to be very fun.
You know what? You know what I was just thinking is, so like the first time we see him, he gets jumped by all the pirates, and granted, overwhelming odds, but he just kind of like he punches some people, but gets overwhelmed. I wonder if like he had completely cut himself off from the Force to hide. And now, like in captivity, he's just slowly been trying to reconnect with the Force.
Slowly moving rocks.
Exactly. While he's there trying to get the Force back and like try and use the Force again. And it could be 20 years. So that could, I don't know. Like you can lose it, I think. Like
I think so too. I mean, that's
in canon.
It is canon. That's what we get if we think about the Chiss, right? That's what happens to the Chiss. The most of the kids that are Force sensitive become the navigators, and then they lose it as they grow older, right? Because they're not exercising that muscle. And that's my theory, is that he's using this to impress the kids because basically he needs them to also help him escape for whatever reason.
But that might be all he can do right now.
That's going to be all he can do, and they're going to be like, "Great, do this." He's like, I can like move small objects." Like he's going to be like, "This is all I can do."
That's so interesting. You guys have this sort of read on it, or take, or idea that he's maybe once a Jedi in the Force. He's sort of sworn off the Force. Because to me, I'm just like, I would love a character that basically uses the Force, but it's not honed. It's like they don't really know how to use it in the best ways possible, or how to use specific abilities. Like
so he was not a Jedi. Is that what you're saying? Like,
I think
in this scenario.
To me, I'm saying to me that's fresh. It's like it's like we know what Jedi do. They practice all these
it goes back to
your techniques, where they practice all these different Force heal and kinetic movements and all types of stuff, right? And mind tricks. Like we know what they do.
Yeah.
To see what someone does just autodidactically on their own, like, to me, that's so interesting.
Well, it goes
I
like, holy crap, that's so cool.
I agree 100%, Grant. Like, I agree 100% with that. I just don't think that's the case here, because it makes so much sense for A, his age, that he was a Jedi once, and then B, for the end game here, like sort of like Obi-Wan. You know how Obi-Wan lost it and then had to slowly ramp back up.
To me, what you're talking about is Obi-Wan. So it's like, I don't know why we would just do
that's
Obi-Wan
a good point.
again.
But isn't his age? Wait, so I have two things. One, this
There's
just goes
interesting other stuff I think around it that will sort of make it unique.
It goes back to our last week's discussion, where it's like, is he a Boken Jedi? Right? Did he just come to the Force with no master, and he hasn't really been able to refine it?
So personally here, like we're thinking in a singular way, where it's just like, he may not be the only Force sensitive character in the show. Even if we've seen so far.
Yeah,
really.
One of these kids have to have the Force. I mean, come on.
I wasn't even thinking the kids.
Oh no, what are you thinking?
I was just thinking there's something going on.
I love that Grant has this whole thing like totally plotted out in his mind. He's like, I'm not sharing
yet. Not right. It's not right. He could be a Jedi, like you're talking about. Honestly, to me, it's like, I want to see something that's completely fresh that we haven't seen before. Which is like, he could have the Force, not have had training, but maybe he knows a Jedi. Maybe it's a sibling. It's a character that's connected to him in a deep way, and also used the Force and has gone to this sort of like authoritarian world and hid from the Force. And the authoritarian culture is such a good guise for being a Force sensitive. It's such a like oppressive veil. It's like, oh, of course I don't use the Force. I'm looking at all these statistics and data analysis, and it ties to the very themes that you've seen already set up, essentially.
Yeah.
And Supervisor Under Secretary Kerry Condon, great actor, like one of the best actors I've seen in the last 10 years, just in Banshees of Inisherin and all these other great films. I'm just like, if she's not like a bigger character than just this undersecretary looking to get her daughter back, like to me, there's got to be something more going on there, especially with just how, and Fern is like very interesting to me too. And I do want to pose a question at the very end of this conversation about like the kids.
Let's do it now.
If one of them is to be a Padawan at Luke's temple, like which one?
Neil.
Yes, 100%. Like,
I love that.
Or number two pick, like number two.
I think Fern.
I love.
I think that's going to be the rug pull a little bit, because you want it to be Wim, right? But I think
Wim wants it to be Wim.
I think Fern, honestly.
Yeah.
I can control a droid. It's like the idea of like maybe mind tricking a person eventually, or like just doing things where it's like a little bit more force. Like, I could see that.
Honestly, I mean, it makes most sense to have KB be the person. She actually cares for people. Like she's the hanger on for, what's her name, Fern, but I don't know. She's like, you could have been nicer to them. Like she has a kinder heart, and she's like skilled. I would just like that vector for her character rather than
that'd
just
be
being
super cool.
The nerdy like
Sidekick.
Computer science sidekick.
Yeah.
It likes fuzzy animals.
Yeah. Can I go back for a second and talk about Jude Law's character or Jude Law's age? Because I think we did this last time, and I can't remember if we did the age thing.
I did. Sure. We did. I did the math on it. He's 51 right now. And so if he was 51 in the galaxy far, far away, he would have been 21, 22 around the time of the Order 66.
Right. He's like Cal Kestis-ish age.
Yeah.
Yes. So he would have been. So he could have been a Padawan or something. Or
he could have been a Jedi
or a Jedi. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
He could have been a full Jedi at that point. I mean, if his, but the thing is like, he's the kind of actor that can play 10, 15, 20 years younger than what he is. So it's like, I don't know where they're going to play him, but assuming they play him his actual age, that's what the math works out.
So what is his angle as a Jedi? Is he gonna eventually recount on the fall and sort of like be heartbroken, and like what's his ideas of the Jedi? Or were they misguided like Balin's skull?
I think it's pure trauma. I think it's just sort of like he was there and he saw everything that he knew and cared for and believed in fall away from him and be oppressed for 20 years. And all he knew was survive. And because of survival, he just knew, he probably watched his other, brethren fall. I mean, maybe he had a friend who got killed by an inquisitor, as soon as he found out
what if he is an inquisitor? That would blow my mind, honestly. I would be like, oh my god.
Yeah. I think if he was an inquisitor and then took the dark path of being a pirate, he would have kept his force powers honed.
Right.
Like, like he could have just done like force push all of those people. Like the first thing we seen when he knows the gig's up with those pirates in the first scene, like he could have force pushed like that whole squad back. He could have had a lightsaber.
I don't even think he was a Jedi. I was just saying that'd be funny.
No, but even if he was an inquisitor, it would be funny. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm too literal about it. Like, well, actually, I don't think
if you were an inquisitor, he would
an inquisitor would have clearly
force potential.
He would have clearly fought his way out
in the show.
Yeah, sorry.
The other thing,
I'm there. I'm in the galaxy far, far away.
I was like, let's go. This is the zone.
Yeah.
We're talking the real details right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The other thing that's super interesting is we don't know, like you said at the beginning, like we don't know the time frame between the prologue and now, right? Like, we don't know how long he's been in that jail cell for, right?
Yeah,
so,
I'm guessing 0 to 5 years.
Right, it feels like a long time. Like we're not talking about like this didn't happen last week.
He knows about the treasure of Atten, though, right? Like that'll be sort of a learning, right? That we have in the next episode. It's like, ooh, you guys live where? Oh, I know about this secret pirate. I mean, like all the top pirates seem to know about this eternal treasure, right?
Yeah, everyone seems to know it. So that's the only thing working against the High Republic theory, which I want to be true. Like I would love for it to go all the way back to the High Republic and like have it be Nihil technology and like whatever. But it's just like that would be 140-year-old myth. And even by Star Wars years, that's ages and ages.
What if it is the first Old Republic story? Essentially, it's like these people sealed themselves off from the galaxy
for thousands of years.
For 1,000, like the Jedi Sith War caused them to like get out of there because that's what the literature is highlighting, right? Like Jedi and Sith or something. Like
Grant, I think
why are Sith part of the books? Why are Sith in the books?
Grant, you have the best ideas. I love them. I feel like you are 5 to 7 years ahead of Lucasfilm. Like,
no, they're getting
maybe if we play our cards right, we might get your story someday. But it's just like you take everything and you just like push it to the next level, which makes them better. And but it's far enough where I believe there is 0% chance of it happening.
Agree. Yeah,
across the board, every time you have a great idea.
But did the Jedi put out like holocrons of like Sith stories and like Jedi fighting Sith?
Probably.
Like, what is Wim looking at right now in the
Great question.
first episode?
Great question.
What is he reading about?
It's,
like, what
it's a mythology that somehow.
It's a mythology book. It's like when I would go to the library and check out the Greek
Sure,
myths.
it's just a mythology text. Okay, but so like they definitely come from the Republic, right? Because like wouldn't the Empire sort of like disguise all that stuff? I don't really know. Like, when would those books? When would those?
You have to think they control all the information on the planet.
Yeah,
right?
it's kind of the only thing I'm like, I don't know why that would exist, right? Unless there's some unknown reason.
Why would the First Order, where they just want to destroy the Jedi? Like, why would they even allow that sort of story that out there? I'm interested in.
I love the First Order theory but I don't think it's true.
First Order theory is not. Yeah, it almost makes you feel it can't be First Order at that point.
Yeah.
It's like Wim is reading about the Jedi, and there's enough freedom here where you can have a giant bathtub and a pretty sweet like mid-mod house and like pretty cool suburb. Like there's enough freedom here that it's nice.
That's not freedom. That's false freedom, right? Because you also go to a school where robots are telling you to behave and are being indoctrinated.
School's not that
There's
bad.
ups and downs.
The school is bad. The school is really bad, Ben.
I think
school is that bad.
Listen, they're taking advanced topics. The students are all well behaved. I mean, like, look at the schools around here.
None of them have any imagination or feeling of anything other than being a mid-level manager.
Because that's what's there.
It's an homage to George and T.A. Jackson. Sort of the kids live in this bland, sort of like automated.
Maybe they work 20 hours a week. Who knows? Well, no, it's not true because Space Dad is like putting in overtime. He's working like 70-hour weeks.
Yeah.
Tunde Adebimpe, incredible
so good
actor.
Yeah.
I really like the mystery surrounding this planet. Like I haven't been upset. I haven't been like kind of like compelled by a mystery in Star Wars since like Rey's parentage. And like I know that's basic to say, but like I was one of those people who were just like, who is Rey? I was obsessed with it for like
what
2 years.
Girl?
Yeah, when Kylo said "what girl" to me, that was like, why is he saying it like that? Why is there such an intense inflection on girl?
Yeah, right on. I wanted to talk about a couple news stories just to wrap this thing up. I think we've covered Skeleton Crew, and obviously each week we're gonna have more to add to the story. But we've done it. We've done it, and I'm like, I'm really happy with how much discourse we had on these first 2 episodes. It's really
me too. Yeah, great combo. You guys cleared some stuff up for me where I was just like, and honestly, some of the theories that I just heard are fascinating, and that's what's great about this Star Wars story is that it's sort of allowing you to sort of use your imagination, and you like creating a mystery that's juicy that makes you want to think about where things could go and what's going on, and it's sort of like all I can see is sort of goodwill about like fostering that sort of mystery or fertilizing and that's like creating this sort of this fertile ground for people to think about. Like I love that in Star Wars. I love when there's this welcoming approach to sort of like what is the mystery of the story, and I hope you think about it, and we'll take care of that sort of like deployment of that mystery because we know it means a lot to you, and you're interested in what happens next. And I really like that. I really like that in a Star Wars story, and the sort of series centric world building. Yeah, incredible. And John Watts, I think, is just getting incredible performances out of everyone, which is huge. Like that's so major in a Star Wars to have great acting, and this is great. Love it.
That's awesome, man. Well, so elsewhere in the galaxy far away, Spotify Wrapped released today, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys are big Spotify people. Spotify is like a member of my house.
I subscribed.
I'm in there. Yeah. So it reminded me that I made a Star Wars playlist that's a curated playlist of, a bunch of songs that's just like more for any time, not necessarily, it's not the score music. It's like a lot of set music. It's called Star Wars Slaps. And you can find that and download it on the Spotify if you're interested. But Nicholas Bertel was high. He was a lot of plays because of like they're like on that day that I made that, they're like, you listened to like 324 minutes of music, and but I got a special Nicholas Bertel message that was like, you were in the top like whatever percentage of people that listen to my music, and it was him. A video popped up and he's like at his piano and he's just like, hey, thanks very much for listening to my music. I really appreciate it.
No,
It was like
that's awesome.
it was really cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that
That's
was a thing.
wild.
That's really fun.
yeah, it
That's
was
really neat.
it was really
Yeah.
cool, and I was like, Nicholas Rattel, you're awesome, man. I mean, yeah, and apparently I've listened to a lot
You
of.
just listen to Clem on loop.
You know what's
Clem Stone.
dude? Honestly, yes.
That song is so good.
My
Yeah.
number one song was the first song on that playlist, and it's called like Introduction, or it's called The Stone. I think it's the guy hammering. It's just the dude hammering the anvil, and it's like bong
right.
bong.
Oh,
And then,
really?
like, that was the song I listened to more than any other song in 2024.
That's awesome.
So that was there, but I just
I think I listened to Clea and Clem Stone. I think a
Yeah.
lot from it. Yeah, those two tracks. I listened to. There's one. Mon Mothma. Maybe it's just called Mon Mothma. I think it's so good.
Yeah.
And it's like, why do you love the Mon Mothma scenes? It's the best music, like in the show.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
so good.
her
The
music
Andor
is so-
music is way underrated. It's phenomenal. I mean, obviously, what's
Is it underrated? It's not like greatly, favored by a lot of people.
because I don't think enough people are making as big a stink about it. Like it's fantastic, and it's just like so stylized, and it's so beautiful, and it's so original.
It is so it's gorgeous.
I just want to
Yeah,
listen
I
to the
think-
intro
I can't wait.
themes back to back to back for all 12
Yeah,
episodes.
how they iterate. It's so
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I say like TV scores just get written off sometimes. Like they're just not focused on as much as the movie scores because, yeah, it is so good.
Yeah,
the
it's
Andor
really good
stuff. Yeah.
And we should
Yeah.
mention for Skeleton Crew, the score is lovely, very very minimalist. It oscillates between pirate-like and child wonder, and but there was definitely they did do Binary Sunset with a cello as Jodna like pulled the keys to him.
It happened. Yeah.
Or actually,
It
no,
did.
the Force
Like-
theme. The Force theme. Sorry.
Yeah, they
The
also
game happened. I pointed. I was pointing and like gesturing with my ear.
Yeah, it was just
When-
one cello just being like meow,
Yeah.
meow, 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 meow. Yeah, it was.
I have to go back to it, but when Wim discovers the ship,
Yeah.
they do so close without like legally being able to sue the song from the Goonies. Like literally, I sit there
okay.
going like, that's
Oh, it's
so
so cool.
close to the Goonies.
It's like E.T. and,
mystery.
it's
The
like-
Goonies,
it's
like
like
whenever they discover something.
Yoda
It's
theme
so
and
close.
E.T.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's Michael Giacchino's son, Mick Giacchino, who did the score for
Oh, no
Skeleton
kidding.
Crew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that
So,
sounds familiar. I think you're right. Yeah. I
Very
forgot- I
cool
remember
that,
reading about that,
the next generation sort of taking the reins. It's very cool.
Yeah, he's doing a lovely job then. Yeah, you know what? I'm a bad music fan because I didn't take the time to look him up yet. But that's great, Mike Giacchino.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, like the show just started. We'll have
I
lots
know,
more to
but-
parse, I think, in the next
Yeah.
few episodes. I'm
I
so
hold
excited.
myself to a higher standard, Grant. But yeah,
Well, you're Nicholas Bertel's like greatest listener, so
yeah. I
so-
wanted to talk about that. Spotify Wrapped is on everyone's thing right now.
That's
So.
hilarious.
I love
Yeah,
that.
That's amazing.
But the other thing, there was a bit of news. Dave Filoni talked to somebody, and everyone reported on it. Two biggest points were that Mando has wrapped filming, is one.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is he's still writing Ahsoka season 2. The quote is, "It's been challenging."
Yeah, no blank. Yeah,
no
like,
blank,
come on.
but like, hey,
Yeah.
feel free to listen to Cantina Chronicles because
Yeah, we
you got a
got
lot of
ideas.
ideas. And
Yep.
yeah, give us a call, Dave.
Take any of them.
Yeah, we'll talk to you and just have it for free. I just want to hang out
No,
and do Star Wars.
Dave's got this. I in Dave we trust. But
Self
nonetheless,
promotion.
there's I think there's
Let's make a
things,
Star Wars.
that I think that I mean, don't get me started. But don't tease me with a fantastic time in a fantastic galaxy. There's there's a possibility that Ahsoka and Sabine and Shin Hati and the characters stuck on Peridea could actually pop into the canon in a way that's kind of unexpected because time travel is a thing here.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, do they have to just be stuck in Peridea for Ahsoka season 2, or could they appear in the Mando and Grogu movie and sort of then we learn about how they got off Peridea in the show. It sort of backtracks a little bit and moves forward past it all or whatever. Because to me, it's like you could essentially
you
the
could
way
totally do that
if you're doing if you're doing Mortis gods and time travel, whatever you're doing with the world between worlds.
You can also, you don't have to do time travel necessarily, because you can like fudge the timeline a little bit to be like Ahsoka season 2 actually takes place before Mando and Grogu movie. I don't know. Like I feel like it's a way to do it, or you can do time travel.
Go around. Yeah.
But you're right. Like they don't even like do the hard time travel stuff. But we do know that like Ahsoka went into, we cannot relitigate this, but went into the world between the worlds and pops out at a later date. Like if you look in that timelines book, she just like pops in and pops out like 3 years later.
Was it 3 years later? I thought it was instant.
It's years later.
I feel like it was instantaneous.
We can't do it again. I can't do it again.
All right, offline. Let's fact check this because I think.
But nonetheless, I did hear Dave Filoni once say that Harris and Dula and Thrawn are sort of like arch rivals, and sort of like to me, I'm like, oh, that's a ton of canvas to do stuff.
I mean, the good news for Dave is that he is a writer / associated with Ahsoka, the Mandalorian movie, and the Mandalorian. Like he has controlled and or created all the concepts involved in Ahsoka. So it's like, he doesn't he should know what he wants to do with the world between worlds. He should know where the story for the Mandalorian and Thrawn is going. And like, that should be kind of enough. I mean, obviously I think it's the Ray Stevenson problem is the biggest one that he's got to find an elegant solution to. That's hard, but it's like he controls all of the variables around himself. Like, it's not like he's on rails here at all. And maybe that's the problem, is that like, he's got too much autonomy. I think, but can you imagine the Rolodex available to him if he's like, okay, who's your favorite sci-fi writer in the world? Like, is it Dan Simmons? Like, Kathleen Kennedy knows Dan Simmons. Like, call him and ask him a question. Or Charles Soule, like, what would Charles Soule do? Like, he's right there. Like, he could ask so many people and get so many.
I think he has the answers. I think it's a matter of pre-production and storyboarding and making sure everything looks correct.
Well, he said he's still on the script. It's like we're just talking script right now.
It's also bad practice to promote things that aren't the current thing that your company is currently like putting out in the marketplace. It's kind of like.
Yeah. Well, that's why they haven't officially announced.
Let Skeleton Crew breathe, let Mando and Grogu breathe. Like, why talk about these other things when it's like they'll be there, they're coming. Just it's. Yeah. If you say you're still writing, people are going to be like, oh, well, he's still writing. I have nothing further to say because you're obviously percolating on something.
Okay.
And then I bet you it's way further along than that though. Just like Khan isn't in Star Trek, 2 or whatever. It's like.
Right.
Yeah. It's like I'm guessing. Everything that you're hearing about production-wise, I'm guessing is much further along than you can even pretty much fathom. And I'm guessing that he already has ideas for where Ahsoka kind of ends up, and I'm guessing that they're going to be pretty interesting and compelling and sort of definitely go in that really high fantasy sort of direction that it seems like he wants to go with Ahsoka and Sabine. And again, this is a Dathomiri sort of planet. Like, this is a dark planet. Like, this is that like witchcraft sort of planet, essentially, in the lore. To me, it's like Palpatine is a very haunting sort of high fantasy character in the sequels, in terms of the resurrection, and then like just how, I mean, obviously it's like science. It's very science fiction, but it's also like I can't imagine there's good things to discover, like the daughter or like the father and the Mortis, family. Yeah. I'm guessing it's the other half that's the darker.
That's a Gundark's nest in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
As soon as you he opened up the door to the Mortis gods, and it's like, well, good luck explaining that. Because
no answer is going to be satisfying. Yeah. I'm sorry. That's how my feeling is with this stuff. Is just like just don't even.
The more it's shrouded in mystery, the better. Honestly,
I think you go to myth, and Ahsoka's almost this guiding force that guides Sabine. Like they're going to have to go to the underworld essentially and return to the galaxy, which is like, it's. It'll be fun.
We don't have to go offline. I want to just mention, and I feel like this happens the 3 times we keep getting this debate, Ben. You're 100% right. She comes back like 10 minutes later, and I don't know why, and I apologize for always getting so.
Thank you. Your apology
stickly
is
about it, but I will try my best not to doubt that next time. In another year, when I completely yell at you, like, no, she was gone for years, you can be like, Adam, we've done this before.
How long was she gone for? I'm interested. What? How long?
10 minutes.
It's like 10 minutes. Like 10 minutes.
Oh,
like,
okay.
like
It's like 10
basically,
minutes.
she disappears. Vader leaves. She reappears after
Yeah.
Vader leaves. So
which
it's
is
like
which
10
is
minutes.
so problematic for so many reasons, but fine. But I just remember it because like that was my biggest question. Like in that whole book, I was just like, well, what? And they still haven't really explained where she was.
No.
Okay, great. She's back in the world somewhere. I get no. She reappears in the same place, but like
In the same place,
but not under the rubble.
I don't think
Yeah.
that. I think that's a symbolic shot. I don't even think that's like it's just how you interpret it at that point, where like you see the little tunnel and her walking or something. I was like, okay, does she emerge there? Like
I think we get
I
a
don't
shot
buy it.
of her in Malachor, emerging from Malachor.
That's what timeline.
At the end of that
timeline
episode,
says.
essentially, the Vader bat fight.
Oh no, I might be fantasizing about that. No, I don't.
No,
know.
you're right. It does happen. I thought she walks into the void. I could be wrong.
She walks in and then she talks to Ezra while she's in the world between worlds. Says basically, I can't come get you, but I will find you when I get back from here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, probably because she doesn't want to disrupt the timelines, but technically you could, which is problematic in and of itself.
Oh, I
Right,
hope
'cause
there's
that's
nothing about
Ezra's-
disrupting.
But then we
timelines.
don't
I
know
hope that- I
where
hope there's
she's
nothing
been
about that.
until I think Return of the Jedi. Like I don't.
It's a you don't long time before you find out anything about her fate, and then because like you can time travel, right? Because the whole thing, like, Ezra's final test is not to save Caleb.
The worst thing is if they dig into the time travel in any mechanical way. To me, that would be the worst
100%.
direction to carry the story.
Yeah.
If it's like time is fragile and like there's a ripple in a pond and they connect it to the forest and how fragile time is, I'll be very upset because I don't care about them wrecking timelines because so many IPs, big franchise stories are just obsessed with this sort of like multiverse and multiversal timeline.
Can't do multiverse. Multiverse is dead. Like it's out. No one wants to deal with a multiverse.
You can't do post Avengers. Endgame. You cannot do time travel in a giant franchise.
No, what's
anymore.
better?
They did it.
Direction
It's done.
is like Skeleton Crew. Like we're lost. You need a guiding light through, like, we can get home this way. This idea that it's a feeling of being lost in the vast
galaxy
wilderness of space. To me, that is where you go.
I mean,
a lot of weird corners.
I know. Honestly, I wouldn't hate a Purgle return trip either. Like, I know how they made it seem like.
I think you can't do it. I think we did.
I know you guys have said that. I think you can. I'm sticking with my guns on that one.
Okay. I absolutely think they can. I don't think they
I agree
will.
with you. You're right. I still think they can.
I think
we can get home this way, and Ahsoka like looking up and smirking because she understands this sort of magic and lore and part of the galaxy makes perfect sense to me. She's the guide, through that
world, like she's done it before, and
supernatural.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it in a way that
supernatural guide character. It's such a basic archetype.
I'd love it if it was only Ahsoka that could do it. You know?
Yeah, right. Like there's. Yeah, like
or
a ferryman.
Could you do it in a way that allows her this one-time opportunity, and she goes through it, comes back out in the galaxy, and feels like something's broken. I've broken something, right? And that's it.
Butterfly
and like she cannot get back. But she just can't get back into the world between worlds. Like somehow
you need to have that. That's a fun.
Somehow using the world between worlds to travel between galaxies, like she's broken it somehow. You don't need to go in detail, but she can't access it again because I feel like you give her that power. You need to take it away immediately because then you make her OP. She's OP at that point. It's like too much.
Oh, I don't mind her having it, but I definitely want that at least a sequence where she gets locked out. She thinks she's like, I'm somewhere worlds away from where Sabine. Oh my God, Sabine's worlds away from me. Like the idea of being so far away from each other and being locked out from the portal or the world between worlds is that's such a scary idea. I like it.
Yeah.
Anakin leading them, the wraith of the ghost of Anakin, the wraith of Palpatine, like these sort of things that I always thought Star Wars. I thought that was the inevitable future of the original trilogy, was eventually dealing with sort of like, what was all that blue fire that like she came shooting out of the
cauldron.
The Death Star,
the Death Star.
Out of the Death Star when he died. Yeah, right. That could have been his essence, or that.
What was that? And then like
dark magics.
Yeah, and then just some of the ancillary books I've read, and just like sort of the idea about the contingency plan and dark lord, dark wizard sort of stuff of like surviving somehow, like Thrawn and against the witches of Dathomir, and like the. To me, I'm like, this is actually going in a dark mystical direction. I would love to have Anakin be like guide Ahsoka through the world between worlds as like a voice, as a character, like we saw in Ahsoka season 1. But I would love to see Palpatine's like Wraith, sort of like.
Yeah, we don't have that question
like,
answered.
I'm really
like, how did he
missing
live?
the dark side of the equation.
Yeah.
In all of the stories right now, all of those stories right now are like, we're gonna get to the, you know, the sort of inception of the First Order, and you know, the all this sort of stuff. I'm like, okay, and like Gideon's cloning himself, it's great, but it's like,
How did Palpatine
I
survive?
really want to know about like Palpatine essentially, and I really want to like, it can't just be somehow Palpatine survived. It's like as returned. It's like it may I think it should just delve into that.
Yeah, because it should have something probably to do with the world between worlds. But I don't know. Yeah, and it'll be like you could do some things with Anakin, like maybe now that he's passed on, but is like a Force ghost, that he's now ready to become the father as the chosen one, and like what is he going through? I'd love for them to take.
Or Palpatine's been to Peridia. Like Palpatine, I think in the
Wow.
Aftermath books is sort of thinking about the outer reaches of the galaxy
Yeah,
a lot of the
yeah.
time, and going beyond the galaxy and the darkness beyond the galaxy and all this sort of stuff. Exegol, Peridia, these things that are in the far reaches.
Yeah.
And like, who knows? Like, could he have been to Peridia already? Could he have been to that, the site of the Mortis statues and stuff? Like, I don't know. It's very cool. Like, it's very cool. Like, there's so many cool directions you could go.
I love that. Any last words, Adam, Grant? Otherwise, I
Nope.
think I'm going to close this thing up. This has been a really great time. I mean, we're going to hang out and stay at the cantina as we are wont to do. And, you know, get some side eyes from random servitors. But, you know, you do you, we'll do us. But we greatly appreciate you listening to this conversation. We've now fallen all the way off the rails, which is a sign of a great Star Wars is born. So it's been a blast. Thanks very much for listening to us as always. And next week, we're going to talk about episode 3 of Skeleton Crew and a whole bunch of other things. So, so, you know, get some rest, and then we'll see you next week at the old cantina. Saddle up for another edition of Cantina Chronicles.